Editing is like riding a bicycle or driving a stick. In the beginning, it can be daunting, but once you kind of get the hang of it, you start to enjoy it. Now, editing can be a very time-consuming process, and especially like with all the troubleshooting that you need to know how to tackle right away, you know, it can become quite a headache. But I'm going to show you ways to speed up your process, speed up your editing process, and save time while doing so. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Art Freeman, and today we're going to look at 5 ways to speed up and save time while editing. Now, we're going to be editing in Premiere Pro, and the reason that we're going to be using it versus software like Final Cut is because of its technical tools for manipulating footage and colors. So without further ado, let's jump into it. We are in Premiere Pro. For those of you who are new, or for those of you who are opening this up for the first time, let's quickly go over the windows that we have. So this is our source monitor. Think of it as a preview window. The next window that we have here is our program monitor panel. When you drop the clip onto the timeline, which is the timeline is here, it shows you what is happening. The project panel contains all of the files that we have imported into the program, and this is all the files that we are currently working with. You can drag or you can resize the windows by simply going in the middle here, and you're going to have those parallel lines, and then you can drag it up so you can reposition it to your liking. And by the way, this is our timeline. Depending on the tab that you're going to be working with, we have color, effects, audio. So if you're predominantly working with audio, you might want to select this one so that you can have all of the instruments for that. Effects, if you're going to be heavily focusing on the effects, I like to work in the color panel just because I have the colors here. And if I need to work with effects, what I do is I jump into the effects tab, and I can quickly place them onto the footage. So the first step to any edit is organizing all of the footage that you have. To sort of demonstrate the point, I usually split everything into A-roll and B-roll. This is at the very least. So what I do is I create a new bin, hit this new bin. So let's type in audio. We're going to name this, select these files, and we're going to simply drag them into our bin. If we go ahead and reveal the contents of the bin, we have all of the files here. This is our timeline. So a couple of quick notes about the navigation on the timeline. Go ahead and hit plus to zoom in and hit minus to zoom out. Now, in order for this to work, the timeline panel or the timeline window has to be selected. If you're going to be in the source monitor window, you can do the same thing, plus minus. You can zoom in, zoom out, and this is going to help you in terms of your navigation, and it's going to save some time as well. Let's select one of the files. So what we're going to do is we're going to double click on it. This is going to open it up here, and we see that the clip itself is fairly long. It is, let's see, it's 17 minutes long. So what you're going to do is you want to create a selection. Let's select a portion of the clip that we really need. So let's say we're going to hit I. This is going to create the in point, and then we're going to scrub forward, and then we're going to hit O. So we have the in point, and then we have the out point. We have 2 little tabs here. So this one is for the video only, and this is for audio only. So what we can do is if we go ahead and drag this footage right now, so we literally gonna drag it onto our project timeline, and you see that this drags both the video and the audio. But great, we can drag either video only or audio only. So working with selections speeds up the process tenfold. We can do the same thing here. So we can work with selection, go ahead and zoom in, hit I for the in point, hit O for the out point. Now, if for you the I and the O are not designated as the in point and the out point, what you can do is you can go into shortcuts. Okay, click on this one here, hold down I, and it is going to reveal what that key is currently assigned to. If you don't like what the key is assigned to, you can always change it in the window here. Same thing for O. O is designated as the mark out. Okay, we could go ahead and close this. You can create the shortcuts that you are going to be comfortable and that you are going to be familiar working with. Now that we have our selection, we need to do a couple of things. So let's go into this button editor, and we're going to drag in loop playback, because currently what's happening is this is our playhead. If we play it, if we play the file by hitting space, you know, it's going to play outside of our selection. So in order to designate and tell the program that we want to work with the selection, we're going to enable loop playback. Once we have done that, watch what happens to the playhead. It jumps straight into the start of our selection. And then once it gets to the end of it, it is simply going to, it's simply going to loop. So it's going to go back straight to the beginning. There you go. So how do we delete this selection? We hold down Option X or Alt X, and that deselects our selection. Now you probably have noticed that we have this little yellow bar hovering on top of the footage, and this is actually our render playback. We have three general colors to designate render. We have green, yellow, and red. So anytime you're gonna have a lot of effects that are laid onto the footage, this bar is gonna go red. That means that the playback is not gonna be available because the software is currently gonna be calculating the way to do so. So what you need to do is, for example, let's create the selection one more time just to prove the point. So we go into sequence and then we select render in to out. Now I do this all the time, and we can see that this selection is fairly long. It is 5,328 frames, but I like rendering the files as I go along. This speeds up the playback, and it speeds up the ultimate export of the project, because if you don't do it this way, it's going to be rendering it later on, and that's going to add time on the back end. After the Premiere has rendered the portion of the clip, this bar turns green, and that's exactly what you want. So ultimately, right before you're going to be exporting the whole project, you want the whole project to be rendered beforehand. Let's go into the alignment consistency. For example, if you want to create text, go ahead and hit T, go ahead and type in text. Now, aligning it becomes difficult because we don't have anything to go by. So what I like to do is I like to go ahead and go into the button editor, and let's go ahead and drag in safe margins. Just click and hold. We're gonna go ahead and drag in show rulers, and we're gonna go ahead and drag in show guides. So now go ahead and close this. First thing is, let's enable safe margins. Now safe margins sort of brings out this window. We have the midpoint and then we have our height, though that way we can sort of navigate. But in terms of positioning and aligning the files in Premiere, we have our margins, we have our ruler, we have our guides. What we can do is we can bring out the guidelines to align the text even more precisely than just simply using the margins. So the way to do that is, this is going to be for our vertical guides. Click and drag to bring out the lines. You can do it only from the left side though. So bring out the guides, and then you can do the same thing for the horizontal lines, and like so. And then when you are done with it, you can just simply deselect the guides, and they're gonna go away. Same thing for the ruler, same thing for the safe margins. So I end up enabling and hiding the safe margins all the time. So you use it when you need them. If you don't need them, just simply hide them. This is my text, and this is my blue shape. What I do is I simply duplicate it by dragging it across. Now let's go ahead and delete this, and I'm going to show you what happens if you select both the objects, go ahead and down, hold Option and drag. Now if I were to let go of the Option key right now, and then I would let go of the drag, it would simply reposition the placement of the files that I had beforehand. So I'm going to undo it by clicking Command Z, select it again, and hold down Option, drag, keep holding Option, let go of the drag, and it should duplicate. Now the same principle works for all of the files in Premiere. So I can literally select anything, zoom in, and I can duplicate it by holding Option, drag it out, let go of the mouse, and it's going to duplicate my file. Cool. let's go ahead and talk about speed ramps. Speed ramps is something that you are going to be using quite a lot, and you need to get pretty good at it. I have a portion of the clip where I am rendering an image, and this process takes a couple of minutes. So what we can do to speed it up is we're going to use a speed ramp. Now, in order to create a speed ramp, what we're going to do is we have this little FX designation here. We're going to go ahead and double click on it. Go into time remapping and select speed. Now what that's going to do, that's going to create this white bar. That's going to be, this is our playback speed. Now the current playback speed is 100%. So go ahead and click P. It's going to bring up this pen, and then you want to click here. P is going to create a marker, and then you need to create 2 of those. This is the start of the speed ramp. This is the end of the speed ramp. So let's go ahead and zoom into our video window by holding down Command and hitting plus. Okay, so this is going to expand it. Then what we do is we go into the in point and we drag it out, and then we go into the out point and then we drag it out also. It's like the beginning of the starting point and then the end of the starting point. You're gonna see it. So keep in mind, this is our current playback speed. Essentially, you want to see the double-sided arrow. Go ahead and drag this up, probably like 800%. So, okay. Now, currently what we see is the start of the speed ramp is pretty edgy. It's not smooth at all. So go into the middle of the start of the speed ramp. You should see the double-sided arrows here, and click in the middle. This is going to bring up this point, and then just simply drag it to the right. This is going to curve it out, and it's going to create a nice and smooth curve. Do the same thing on the other side. Okay, it's going to smooth it out even more. Now, what you can do is you can drag these points out. This is going to make the speed ramping even more gradual. So now let's go ahead and take a look at how it looks. And in order to get the best playback, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a selection again. I'm going to hit I for the starting point in and the out point, and then I'm going to go into the sequence and render in to out. So this way, I'm going to be able to see what the final rendered video is going to look like. Now let's go ahead and see what the playback looks like. The playback is nice and smooth, and I don't see any logs or I don't see any delay with the clip. So cool. Last but not least is using nesting. For example, we're going to take a portion of these clips, we're going to select them, and then we're going to go ahead and click Nest. Nesting is an awesome way of organizing and grouping the files. Now, what you can do in the nesting is you can apply the same effects or the same parameters to a selected number of clips. You can do such things as stabilize the footage altogether instead of doing it one by one. You can color correct the footage. So there you have it. Those are the tips and the tricks. That's just the beginning. There's going to be a lot more to come, because in the next video, we're going to go more in depth into analyzing Premiere Pro, and I'm going to show you ways that you can manipulate the footage and give it that nice, high-grade, professional look. So it's all about saving time and at the same time building your confidence so that you can tackle smaller to like maybe medium-sized jobs already. That's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Art Freeman. Peace out.